Me say we just get the remedy for the pagan them. Me just get the remedy for bad mind and jealousy. Who want to see me dead? Me just get the remedy. Suck TV. Jam me say. You don't know what Javinche you watching Suck TV. Lord, is it straight triple dose.
Welcome to SAD TV's news. I'm Shanna Esprit, your presenter. Among the major developments, Ministry of Agriculture says citrus greening disease spreading. Caribbean fast ferry service needs private sector investment, says Gonzalez. Large asteroid zipping past Earth, dragging its own moon along. And in sports, Bayside drafters secure 3 points from Air Sunshine Marigot no-show. Details of these will follow. Welcome back. The Sagicor Visionaries Challenge national competition came to an end on Friday, May 31st with a special prize-giving ceremony. Sagicor Life Incorporative General Agent Ms. Sherry Roll said, "The journey has been long but rewarding and hopes the participants have been inspired to embrace science, math, technology, and engineering."
At the introductory workshops, our Sagicor Science champions brainstormed project ideas with teachers and students, helping them realize just how simple it was to identify an issue in their community and how quickly they were able to think of viable solutions. From there, the participants took the news of the challenge back to their schools, and as a result, in the 12 countries where the challenge was held, we received close to 170 submissions from 100 schools. Means we at least have 100 times at least 3, I'll say about 500 and something budding scientists from across the Caribbean.
She hopes that the involvement of the youth will pave the way for innovative development to improve the lives of future generations. Ms. Roll noted the national winners will shortly travel to Florida in the United States of America, where they will tour the Kennedy Space Center, the Museum of Science and Industry, Disney World Theme Park, and the Patel School of Global Sustainability. I want to advise those of you who did not win, do not be discouraged. Instead, view it as an opportunity to re-enter next year with a new idea that will be unbeatable, Ms. Roll said. The second runner-up prize went to the Convent High School with a project entitled Echo Tree Dine. They won 10 CXE-approved science kits, 5 for biology, 2 for chemistry, and 3 for physics. The Dominic Grammar School won first runner-up prize with a project entitled The Positive Effects of Sulfur on Crops. Their prize includes a Caribbean Science Foundation computerized mobile science and technology center, Venus system, and 4 CXE-approved science kits, 2 biology, 1 chemistry, and 1 physics. The first prize went to the St. Martin Secondary School.
The St. Martin's School will receive a Caribbean Science Foundation computerized mobile science and technology center, a Venus system, 6 CXC approved science kits, 3 biology, 2 chemistry, 1 physics. And for the regional prize of the best use of STEM, they will receive a check for $1,350. We would invite Mrs. Christian. Mrs. Christian, it would be nice if you join the group. Sometime next year, the St. Mary's School will be presented with a trophy, and for winning locally, the trophies there, sorry. There's also a trophy for the St. Mary's School for winning the local competition and also the best sustained. So your cabinet should look pretty more impressive after today's ceremony.
Their project was entitled the Flushometer. In other stories, following the arrest and charge of 39-year-old Mr. Earl Seco Grant of St. Joseph in conspiring with Mr. Denny Shillingford to unlawfully and maliciously set fire to the home of Glenworth Emmanuel, with Glenworth and Greta Emmanuel therein, Senior Counsel Anthony Astafan is speaking out on the matter. Mr. Astafan is calling on the Acting Director of Public Prosecutions, Mr. Julian Prevost, and the Chief of Police, Mr. Daniel Carbon, to inform the public on the reasons for bringing charges against Mr. Grant. He added he is shocked by the development of this case over the last few days.
We had a situation where the substantive hold of the Office of DPP and the Commissioner of Police at the time decided not to prosecute because of the complete lack of credibility of the alleged confessions and the complete absence of any corroborative or independent evidence relating to Mr. Grant. He came back on his own volition. There was no warrant of arrest or extradition order for him. He was promptly arrested, detained. There was an investigation. There was a meeting of the commissioner, investigating officers, and the DPP. And rumors have it there was a particular decision made, and subsequently another decision was made, revoking the earlier decision which was made.
Mr. Astafan said something is not right.
This matter concerns an allegation propagated by the opposition of state-sponsored terrorism. I think the Commissioner of Police and the Director of Public Prosecution, Mr. Julian Prevost, have an obligation to the people of this country. Tell us what is it they relied on to make those decisions to prosecute, what was the new evidence that they had seen, which Commissioner Carrot and DPP Pestina hadn't seen, and what triggered the situation. DPP acting and the Commissioner have an obligation to tell us whether there was a decision between 4 and 6 o'clock and whether there was a change of a decision that led to the charging of Mr. Earl Grant. What triggered that change? When did the change take place and who made it? We have an obligation to know what that information is.
Efforts to contact Mr. Carbon and Mr. Prevost for comment on the matter proved futile. However, SAT Telecoms will provide an update on this matter as soon as more information becomes available. In more news, the National Bank of Dominica, in collaboration with the University of the West Indies Open Campus, has hosted its 6th annual National Distinguished Lecture on the topic Globalism and the Challenges of Labor, Prescriptions for Regional Competitiveness. Mr. Danny Roberts, head of the Hugh Lawson Shearer Trade Union Education Institute of the UWI Mona campus, made an address at the Fortune Hotel on Thursday, 30th May. In his presentation, Mr. Roberts said that we live in a region where past history has been shaped more than any other by the evolution of a global economy.
Indeed, the plantation, which came to dominate Caribbean societies for nearly 500 years, in many respects bears the prototype of the elemental characteristics of modern-day globalization. And any objective analysis of the historical continuities to the present global situation would recognize the significance of labor, more expressly, the exploitation of that labor, as central to the hegemonic influences of the times.
Global phenomenon must firstly be recognized in order to understand the challenges to attain development in the context of globalization.
In words so eloquently expressed by Sir Sridhar Ramphal, instinctively take from globalization what it offers in enhancement of their power, but deny its potential for enhancement of the power of others. And secondly, for us as a region to develop what Norman Gervon calls counter-globalization strategies, which would change the trajectory from labor exploitation to labor empowerment as an alternative development paradigm consistent with the needs and interests of our people.
In reference to one Caribbean island taking on globalism, Mr. Robert quoted Professor Dinaj Roderick, a professor at the Harvard University. We cannot simultaneously pursue democracy, national development, and economic globalization. One of the three has to give the others to succeed.
Has globalization gone too far? Professor Roderick points to the dangers which are inherent if the social consequences of globalization are ignored. He mentions the backlash against trade and, more importantly, the social disintegration as nations are split along lines of economic status, mobility, region, or social norms.
He explained that the absence in globalization of moral and civic virtues has brought about a new communitarian movement.
If we therefore draw a parallel on that ideological continuum with this total institutional concept, what is therefore reflected in our contemporary experience would be the settlement of big businesses in the region, often at the expense of local companies, the conquest of our cultural sensibilities to legitimize lifestyles which are wayward and morally wrong, and the exploitation of our labor, while we yet again, from the time of the Gilded Age to today's global recession, carry on this cyclical romance with that discredited utopian view that unfettered market are both the essence of human liberty and the most expedient route to prosperity.
In closing, he said in the centrality of labor, we are to learn from our history and establish new construction of governance, particularly among slum states, as we are all in the English-speaking Caribbean. In other news, head of the Plant Protection and Quarantine Unit, Mr. Ryan Ansem, on Thursday, May 30th, stated that despite the Agricultural Division's rapid response strategy to combat the citrus greening disease, commonly known as Wang Longbing, it is slowly spreading to new areas. This deadly disease was first intercepted in Dominica in May of 2012 and was identified in these 4 areas: Cabritz, Point Michel, Wesley, and Lapine. According to Mr. Ansem, the disease, however, has been discovered in the north and the northeast from Portsmouth to Cottage, Capuchin, and back to Viecas, and symptoms of this disease were found in Calibishi.
We have conducted eradication programs in Point Michel, and program is ongoing in Wesley to eradicate the dreadful disease from the island of Dominica. I have to remind the general public that the disease is a vector-transmitted disease, which means an insect transmits the bacteria from tree to tree, which makes the eradication process very difficult. We are also urging the farmers and the general public to assist the Ministry of Agriculture in not moving planting material from one area to another.
The strategy, he says, is to contain the disease where it has been discovered and to manage it by eliminating all infested trees in residential areas. This is one of the world's leading incurable disease, and once the tree has succumbed to the citrus greening disease, it will die in 1 of 2 years.
So what we are presently doing, we are training the farmers and we are training extension officers in containing the disease in these areas. So what we are asking the farmers, do not move any citrus material into the areas where the disease has not been intercepted. And you should only do that with the permission of the citrus certification facility or the plant protection and quarantine services. We're asking the general public to please comply to this regulation. The citrus industry is very important to Dominica, and we do not want the disease to spread to areas that are non-infested. So the strategy would be to contain the disease where it is and to manage the disease. And how are we going to do that? We're going to eliminate all infested trees in residential area, and we're asking residents to look for symptoms of the disease and to comply to whatever measures that the Ministry of Agriculture proposed to eradicate the disease.
Head of the Citrus Certification Program, Mr. Joseph Blandford, says farmers need to eradicate all of the host plants that are home for the vector, especially the sweet lime hedges, to ensure the disease does not move from residential homes to farms.
We would want them to also ensure that the application for planting material must be done after they have completed the process of the necessary land preparation, the necessary intervention by the extension officer, because the extension officer can give them a fairly good guideline as to whether or not the symptom of that disease or the disease is present in the locality. Because not all of the farmers will know the signs and the symptoms of the disease. Some of them are of advanced age, so they will rely on the extension officer, the quarantine department, to indicate to them whether or not that vector is in that particular area. Because if the vector is in there already, and there is no parasitoid activity or no eradication exercise in that particular location, it makes no sense that they are purchasing new clean planting material to bring up to a particular area, because what is going to happen, the new plants are going to get contaminated by the vector and the disease is going to move up to that particular area.
Mr. Ansem advised that citrus planting material should only be purchased from the Ministry of Agriculture, as private individuals and or nurseries who sell these plants do not have the capability of producing any clean planting materials. He noted, as a result of the increased cases of the disease and its vectors in the community of Point Michel, a lot of the eradication efforts are being focused in that community. The cooperation of farmers and the public are vital in eradicating the citrus greening disease. In more stories, the family and close friends of local costume builder and designer Mr. Michel Raffles are urging Dominicans to keep praying for his speedy recovery. Mr. Raffles, who suffered a stroke on Wednesday, May 29th, was airlifted via an air ambulance to Barbados to seek a further medical attention on Friday, May 31st at 11:45 a.m. after spending 2 days at the intensive care unit of the Princess Margaret Hospital. An hour later, he was met by an ambulance at the airport in Barbados and was later transported to the hospital. Mr. Joseph Raffles, Michel Raffles' brother, stated this incident has left the Raffles family in a state of sadness. He noted that his brother suffered the stroke as a result of high blood pressure.
His condition right now is stable because he's heavily sedated, so they could transport him to Barbados.
So it's not apparent that
he was in a coma, but then they kept him because they didn't know the condition of the injuries.
Mr. Raffles has a history of high blood pressure and has been taking medication. Mr. Raffles was accompanied by his older brother, Mr. Akel Raffles, who will provide much needed support during his ordeal. In an exclusive interview with SAT Telecoms, Mr. Raffles' girlfriend, Ms. Normana John Baptist, revealed that this untimely incident has caused a lot of emotional distress on her.
All we can do right now is just pray, and just pray hard for him, because he's known to everybody in Dominica. He's a good man, and we need all the praise he can get. Right? God is good and everything will be okay. I'm really devastated, the family is devastated, but all we can do is just hope for the best and hope that everything is going to be alright.
Ms. John Baptist said she was with her boyfriend when he suffered the stroke. She explains how the incident occurred.
He started complaining with headaches. He was complaining with headaches, but I didn't know that it was so bad. And then he was trying to get up. He could not get up. I had to call his brother to come to help me, because he was so heavy. I was trying to lift him up, but he was too heavy for me. And to call his brother, and then he had to call the ambulance. And when he reached the hospital, he told us it was a stroke that he suffered from.
And that was on what day in the week?
It was on Wednesday at about 3 o'clock in the morning. Everybody was praying for him. I'd like to say thank you, and that you should keep praying for him. He'll be alright. I just want to say thank you for everybody, all the comments on the notes, all the prayers. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Prayers are powerful, and I know you'll get better. Just want to say thank you very much for all the prayers and all the support. Thank you.
Mr. Raffles, who has been building carnival costumes for over 25 years, was awarded with a special recognition award by the National Cultural Council in 2012 for the preservation and development of carnival costume making and design. Apart from his desire to organize a museum for carnival costume, Mr. Raffles' dream is to open a workshop where he could offer training courses in costume designing and building to interested persons. Each year, Mr. Raffles spends countless hours crafting creative pieces which are showcased by the Carnival Queen and Princess contestants. He also specializes in crown making for various competitions, including the Carnival Calypso Monarch, as well as the crowns for the Mass Camp and Stardom Calypso tents. He will celebrate his 50th birthday later this year. In other stories, the boys of the St. Mary's Primary had various exhibits on display, showcasing their hard work and talents through the arts on Friday, 31st May. They opened their literacy center where slow readers and learners received special attention throughout the day. The school as well opened their very own library where students will now have access for research and reading. The books from the library were donated by students from SMP. In addition, as part of observing Open Day, an Art and Information Communication Technology room were established. Mr. Bird Paul, visual and performing arts teacher, was the mastermind and organizer behind the event. Today is SMP's Open Day. Can you give us more insight about what is going on?
Yes, today is our open day at the St. Mary's Primary School where we have parents and teachers and students interaction is taking place today.
And I see that you have a lot of artifacts outside. Can you tell us more about it?
Yes, our students were engaged in different activities throughout the term, and all of them now on exhibits outside of the school, outside of the classroom,
Mr. Paul said that the St. Mary's Primary places great emphasis on art since its introduction in January 2013. As a result, the school topped the National Arts Festival, which took place earlier this year. The students visited the Kalinago territory, where they showcased arts and craft made with their own hands. Other displays were French corner, science education, and history.
Go ahead. What you doing?
In our last news item for the evening, many talents were displayed by students at the Arawak House of Culture on Thursday, 30th May 2013, as the Dominic Institute for the Arts drew its curtains for the year 2013. Mr. Raymond Lawrence, Chief Cultural Officer, was pleased to announce that the Institute had successfully completed its first year.
Last year, the Cultural Division and the National Cultural Council, after having had this idea for a while, decided that we were going to establish a specialized institution in Dominica for training in all aspects of the arts, for both children and adults, and call it the Dominica Institute for the Arts. We decided to use the Old Mill Cultural Center as a base for the institution, and just at about the same time, with the help of the government, we were able to open a new facility at the Old Mill, which was built with funds from the government of Dominica. And this facility now serves as a multi-purpose arts training studio.
Mr. Lawrence expressed gratitude to the government of Dominica for funding the project.
In September last year, training programs officially commenced at the Institute, and we were able to offer several programs in the first semester from September to November 2012, and in the second semester from January to April 2013. And today, thank God, we're able to hold and celebrate a closing ceremony after our first year of operation.
The director of the Institute, Athleen Douglas Murdoch, gave a report on its 2 completed semesters.
At the launch, the Institute offered 17 courses. 3, including the 1 full-time foundation course in the visual arts, proved to be non-starters because of insufficient enrollment. 14 courses were finally selected. 3 in the visual arts, that is visual arts, fine arts, and wood carving, and 10 in the performing arts, creative dance, ballet, drama, children's choir, guitar, keyboard, drum kit, steel pan, flute, music theory, and we also offered the Creole language. It's not among visual and performing arts, but we threw that in. Occasional courses were also offered. They included recognizing a child's creative potential and an introduction to the visual arts.
147 persons were able to take advantage of the program, with 107 having completed it. Students of the fine arts were awarded with certificates at the end of the ceremony. And in court news, no one saw it coming, as it was just yesterday that Earl Sagicor Grant was denied bail. However, at the Roseau High Court of Justice on May 31st, Mr. Grant, who has been charged with conspiracy in relation to a fire at the residence of former Magistrate Glenworth Emmanuel in December 2010, was granted bail. The bail was granted by Justice Bernie Stevenson earlier today and Magistrate Bernard Paquette in the sum of $20,000. Grant's mother, Maria Coffey, and her sister-in-law, Cynthia Sarah, stood as sureties at about 3:30 p.m. on Friday. As part of his bail conditions, Grant is ordered to ensure that he resides with his mother in St. Joseph, report to the St. Joseph Police Station every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., inform police of any change of address, prohibited from having any contact with persons associated with the case, surrender his Dominican passport. He is prohibited from applying for any travel document, prohibited from leaving the state. He is to lead an honest and industrious life. Mr. Grant's U.S. passport was not seized by the police due to the fact that it is the property of the United States government. This has been the local segment of the news. Coming up next, regional highlights.
SAT-TV took to the streets to get the public's opinion on Earl Sagicor Grant being granted bail by a Roseau magistrate on Friday, May 31st, 2013. This is what they had to say on the matter.
I think that Earl Grant should not be granted bail, seeing that he was denied bail yesterday. And they also stated when he was not granted bail that he would be flight risk, and all of a sudden today he's being granted bail. They should have kept him remanded until the case.
I believe it's a matter of long time in the process, so at the end of the day I think everybody did deserve a fair trial. So at the end of the day, I mean, granting Mr. Grant bail, I think it's okay. I have no problem with that because there's a legal system you have to follow too, and at the end of the day, you know, it's the legal-minded persons that know, you know, what they're dealing with. So at the end of the day, granting him bail doesn't mean that, you know, it's something of such a great concern to me as an individual in connection with his with the crime, alleged crime, I would say, on this, you know, because you have to know what really go on before we just jump into conclusions at the end of the day.
That justice has been served by the High Court, and I'm very pleased that the young man innocent until proven guilty, and when the final judgment comes, we will all see what happened. So it shows that the due process is on, and I'm very much proud of the High Court and the lawyers that they gave a man a chance to prove himself whether he's guilty or not.
He should be in jail all the time for the rest of his life.
I guess granting him bail, I don't see enough problem into it. I think everybody deserves a fair chance and a fair trial, so let's hope for the best out of the results.
This is Larry Larrock reporting for SAT-TV News. Do have yourself a great weekend.